Hello friends, welcome back. Let us continue with the discussion in continues to our previous session, that is organizational development. In this session I am going to discuss about some OD techniques or interventions to bring about change. The first is sensitivity training, survey feedback, process consultation, team building, intergroup development and appreciative inquiry. The first is sensitivity training. It is also known as laboratory training, encounter groups or T groups or training groups. This kind of training seeks to change behavior through unstructured group interaction. Maybe people are all together who are encountering some problems, but they do not have any solution to those problems and they need change. In order to bring about change, the management fosters group interaction among members in a very unstructured manner, where members are free and open to express themselves and discuss about their problems in a very interactive process. There is no hierarchy, there is no boundary, and ultimately people become more free to interact with each other. Maybe the interactive process is loosely directed and the professional behavioral scientist creates an opportunity to express ideas, beliefs and attitudes without taking any leadership role. So, there is no leader within that group, all members are there and they are unstructured in a manner that any employee, irrespective of their designation or status, they will come and join that interactive process and express their ideas, opinion and belief about the group, about the organization, about the problem they face, and ultimately there is no leadership role with any of the employee. Sensitivity training is something where sensitive issues are being put up, and sometimes members also try to give such kind of interactions a very chaotic shape, which can be sometimes intimidating or sometimes it is very chaotic. But at the same time, this has its more advantages, that how people come up and open up with their ideas in order to resolve any problem or bring about change. But yes, many participants found these unstructured groups intimidating, chaotic and damaging to work relationship. However, organizational interventions such as diversity training, executive coaching and team building exercises are descendants of this early OD intervention technique. So, in order to overcome these loopholes or drawbacks of sensitivity training, better approaches have been developed such as diversity training, executive coaching and team building exercises in order to overcome the problems of sensitivity training. Like diversity training, if we talk about, they will speak about different agendas pertaining to gender, pertaining to role conflicts, pertaining to age, pertaining to any geographical location. Whereas executive coaching is something where proper training is given to the employees related to the problems or the change that is required based on certain strategies or certain games, where the coach tends to execute those games and case studies in a manner that the managers tend to understand the significance of that change, right. The other is survey feedback. This is a tool based technique where the change agent tries to understand the attitudes of the organizational members and tend to identify the discrepancies among members' perception, and solving these differences is the survey feedback approach. So, here the change agent tends to identify the problems, the discrepancies among members or in the organizational process based on questionnaires, where members tend to respond to certain questions about what they feel or we have idea about certain problems and how it can be resolved. Once that data is being collected based on the questionnaires, it is about attitudes, it is about range of organizational process in terms of decision making, communication, effectiveness or coordination among units. Immediately it is being shared with the respondents or the employees. So, the data from this questionnaire are tabulated with data pertaining to an individual's specific family. Now, here specific family means the manager of any given unit and the employees who report directly to him or her. So, whatever the feedback has been received through survey, it is being shared with the manager of that department, that what the employees think about any process or any of the other member, and the whole information is being shared with the entire department or unit of that organization. So, these data become the springboard for identifying problems and clarifying issues that may be creating difficulties for problem. So, when these kind of data is being shared with the manager of that particular unit, the data becomes a springboard, because when people come up with their ideas, with the problems that they are facing, so different kind of problems and ideas springs up, and ultimately the manager tend to get different opinions that how the problem can be resolved and what are the problems that he couldn't identify, right. So, particular attention is given to encouraging discussion and ensuring it focuses on issues and ideas and not on attacking individuals. So, those feedback, survey feedback is not taken as a personal feedback, rather it is taken as a positive approach that how that problem can be resolved and what people must be thinking. So, it is not considered as a personal attack, it is about their idea or belief, right. For instance, are people listening, are new ideas being generated, can decision making, interpersonal relations or job assignments be improved. So, employees are giving feedback on the whole process. The manager tend to understand the whole process and identify the loopholes, the discrepancies in the process and then try to bring about change in the whole process. Therefore, answers or the feedback should lead to the group to commit to various remedies from the problem identified. So, once problems or discrepancies or loopholes are being identified, that it becomes easy for the change agent to suggest any change or implement any change accordingly and hitting the problem directly. This is the significance of survey feedback. The other is process consultation, where third party is involved. The third party is the consultant, where he is not directly involved in the organizational process, but tries to suggest change to the organization. Maybe the organization or the members know that something is wrong in the whole process and change is required or change is needed, but they do not know the process, how and what change is required. Under such circumstances, process consultation plays very important role in order to help organizations to implement what kind of change at a particular time of organizational process. It is a meeting in which a consultant assists a client in understanding process events with which he or she must deal and identify a process that need improvement. Organization knows some change is required, but do not know how and in what manner. Then comes process consultation, where the consultant will assist employees in order to bring about change in a particular moment of time. So, managers often sense their unit's performance can be improved, but are unable to identify what to improve and how. That is what I said just now. They have no idea how to improve, but they know improvement is required. So, the purpose of process consultation is for an outside consultant to assist a client, usually a manager, to perceive, understand and act upon process events with which the manager must deal. So, the consultant basically provides a guideline that how the change should be initiated and how that change has to be implemented. So, he indulges with the organization in the process of change or implementing the change, but not directly related to the organizational process. So, these events might include workflow, informal relationship among unit members and formal communication channels. He is indirectly related to the organizational process in different manner and different areas, focusing on different areas and problems and then assisting employees to bring about that change. Therefore, process consultation is more task oriented and consultants are there to give the client insight into what is going on around him, within him and between him and other people. So, the third person as a consultant will help the manager and the employees that what is going on between them, what is the environment, what changes are required, because that consultant is an outsider, he is perceiving all the things, the organizational process, relationships, communication channels in a very objective manner. He is least influenced by that organization. So, the point is that even the consultant is involved with the managers to bring about the change, but actually they do not solve the organizational process, but rather guide or coach the client to solve their problems after jointly diagnosing with need improvement. So, there comes the role of the consultant when the manager is being explained that what problem is there, how it can be resolved, and that connection is created between the manager and the employee. The client develops the skill to analyze process within his or her unit and can continue to call in it long after the consultant is gone. So, the change agent or the manager will implement the change as assisted by the consultant, and intermittently that consultant is being called upon to identify or review that change process. Because the client actively participates in both the diagnosis and the development of alternatives, he or she arrives at greater understanding of the process and the remedy and is less resistant to the action plan chosen. when that plan is being suggested through the consultant to the employee or the change agent. So, both of them are involved, that is employee and the manager, or we can say change agent, both of them are participating in the whole process. So, both the parties, that is change agent and the employee, understand the significance of that implementation of the change, and ultimately they are least resistant to the action plan that have been chosen in collaboration with the consultant. So, this is process consultation, where there is involvement of the third party as a consultant, but not directly with the organization, but rather through guidance and through consultancy the change is being implemented. This is another OD technique, that is process consultation. Team building, it is a common word, but definitely very significant and influential term. So, it is an ongoing process that helps a work group evolve into a cohesive unit. So, how to instill authenticity, how to instill trust, how to instill respect among members, that is the major focus of team building as an OD technique. So, organizations increasingly rely on teams to accomplish work tasks. Team building uses high interaction group activities to increase trust and openness among team members and improve coordinated efforts and increase team performance. This is a baseline work that in order to bring about major changes, or in order to keep the organizational functioning more effective, when employees are being the most important asset, so how to keep that base so strong. So, initially only that every employee undergoes a team building process, where the team building uses high interaction group activities which promotes trust and openness among members. There is more collaboration and there is increase in team performance. So, team building emphasizes the intra-group level, organizational families as well as committees, project teams, self-managed teams and task groups. So, it is emphasizes not only intergroup, but intra-group, that is within the group members. So, any team has to have a very strong foundation based on trust, dignity and respect. So, the more they are established in terms of team building, the more it is easy for any change agent to initiate any change, because they will understand the significance. So, this emphasizes the intergroup level also, organizational families, that is command groups, where they have power and authority and at the same time they are interacting with the team members, as well as committees, project teams, self-managed teams and task groups. So, team building typically includes goal setting, development of interpersonal relationships among team members, role analysis to clarify each member's role and responsibility, and team process analysis. So, when the team building is strong, so even there is any role ambiguity or any confusion regarding the role performance, still it will not disband that particular team. Members will be more open to talk about those confusions, clarify those confusions and then perform the task in a very effective manner. So, this it brings more responsibility to the members. It may also emphasize or exclude certain activities depending on the purpose of the development team effort and the specific problems with which the team is confronted. So, it is not only about being managing a coordinated effort, it also talks about team building, also talks about excluding such previous activities which are redundant, which are not contributing to team building effectiveness and ultimately they are not being practiced. So, this is about team building, that implementing only those changes which brings more robustness to the structure of the team, right. Next is intergroup development. As the term implies, it is about between two groups. So, major area of concern in OD is dysfunctional conflict among groups. So, two groups who are in conflict, maybe because of some financial crisis, maybe about distribution of resources or maybe any other issue. Intergroup development seeks to change groups' attitudes, stereotypes and perceptions about each other. So, one group may have a very negative perception or stereotype or prejudices about the other group, and how those prejudices or stereotyping or discrimination can be reduced to vagueness. So, the most common approach is problem solving. So, each group meets independently to list its perceptions of itself and of the other group and how it believes the other group perceives it. The group shares their list, discuss similarities and differences and look for the causes of disparity. So, whenever two groups are being asked or we can say inquired about their perception about one's group and the other group, and once that listing is being prepared by the members about oneself and others, then that listing be shared with both the groups, where they find out that what is the reason of dissimilarity or conflict between two groups. The groups share their list, discuss similarities and differences, and look for the causes of disparity. So, even the dysfunctional conflict is about distribution of resources. So, maybe two groups, when they express their dissatisfaction related to distribution of resources, when that difference is being identified and being shared, then maybe some common solution will be proposed, which will be a needed change, so that the two group can work on similar lines. Are the group goals at odds? What perceptions distorted? On what basis were stereotypes formulated? Have some differences been caused by misunderstanding of intentions? Now, once these differences, similarities, dissimilarities are listed and shared with both the groups, they tend to understand that what can be the intention, maybe the perception of the other group is wrong, and more clarification can be provided. When such kind of interactive process is initiated, which is basically a change implementation, then ultimately problem is solved and differences also resolved. Therefore, answers to questions like these clarify the exact nature of the conflict. So, once they have identified the causes of the difficulty, the groups move to the integration phase, developing solutions to improve relations between them. For example, I will continue with the same example, that if there is a conflict between the two groups because of distribution of resources, so maybe the organization will make more efforts to generate more resources and distribute it equally, which can help in resolve the change. So, the point is that when we are talking about intergroup development as an OD approach, the managers, the change agents brings about that change based on the perceptions that they have listed and how that perceptions are being shared with both the groups. So, it is about bringing about the change. Subgroups can be formed of members from each of the conflicting groups to conduct further diagnosis and formulate alternative solutions. So, the representatives from both the groups are being selected. They come to a common point to discuss further, analyze, diagnose the problem and come up with some action plan. This actually leads to change implementation. This is another approach, that is intergroup development. Alright. Next is appreciative inquiry. This has a very different perspective about OD techniques. Most of the OD techniques are problem centered or problem focused. Definitely, we are talking about the problems, we are talking about the dissimilarities, we are talking about the differences, we are talking about the conflicts, right. But if appreciative inquiry is the only approach which is strength based approach and accentuates positive in any organization, this approach is basically focusing on any positive things that can happen in any organization, rather than focusing on the discrepancies or disparities or conflict. Generally, what we say that this is the problem or this is the focus of the problem, but here in appreciative inquiry, the change agent would ask for that what positive that has been done or performed, we will deal with that. So, basically appreciative inquiry is not problem centered, but it is more of strength based approach. So, most OD approaches are problem centered, they identify a problem or set of problems and look for a solution. This is what every approach does it. There is intergroup problem, we find out the reason of conflicts and tend to resolve them, right. But appreciative inquiry instead accentuates the positive. Rather than looking for problems to fix, it seeks to identify the unique qualities and special strengths of an organization, where further we as an employee can build upon, right, and improve the performances, because every time any organization cannot just fulfill everything which is lacking. The organization have to move on with whatever good they have and build upon more resources. Therefore, AI appreciative inquiry focuses on organization success rather than on problems. It is a strength based or affirmative approach, and in turn assumes that each human system has a positive core of strength. So, every organization can never be full of problems. Every organization has some positive, and those positives should be considered and perceived as the core strength of any organization, which maybe other approaches are not focusing on. So, this is a positive psychology approach as an OD intervention to implement change. The process of appreciative inquiry consists of 5 steps: discovery, dream, design, destiny and delivery, right, and often played out in a large group meeting over a 2 or 3 day time period and overseen by a trained change agent. So, maybe appreciative inquiry is a process where more training is required by the change agent in order to implement this kind of approach. This is about the 5 steps: discovery, dream, design, destiny and delivery. Let us move into more detail. Discovery. Discovery sets out to identify what people think are the organization's strength. In the previous, we can easily understand that what are the disparities, conflicts, discrepancies between people or within group. But here in discovery, people think of the organization's strength. It is about the what good the organization has. So, employees recount times they felt the organization worked best or when they specifically felt more satisfied with their jobs. So, the organization focus on what works well and what people want in the present. So, people can ask questions, conduct interviews and share stories. So, it is about conducting interviews, sharing reviews and stories with one another based on the previous history, which is completely based on positive notes, that what good happened in last 5 years with the organization and what resources do have which helped us to reach to that level. This is about discovery of the positive aspects of any organization. Once the discovery has been made regarding the positive core of any organization, it leads to dream stage, where employees use the information from the discovery phase and envision the future and what could be possible. People think outside the box and come up with new ideas. So, the point is that even when we talk about the other approaches, even when we identify the problems, people will come up with the solution, right. So, in appreciative inquiry, based on the discovery which is based on positive strengths and notes, people will come up with the ideas based on the positive discovery only and then moving ahead. So, this is a big change in the thought process of OB scientists, that why only every time we are focusing on problem, why not on the positive and then build upon more positive structures. So, this is about dream. Next is design. Participants find a common vision of how the organization will look into the future and agree on its unique qualities. Employees plan and prioritize how to make the dream in reality. Employees work together to create a strategic design. So, the point is not focusing on lacking, but the status quo based on the positive core and strengths, and then bringing about any plan for the needed change. This is about design. So, the strategy is there, strategic planning is there. The only major difference is that at this point of time, only the positive core or strengths are being utilized in order to create or implement any change. We are not focusing on any negative aspects or discrepancies or disparity or dysfunctionality. We are more focusing on the positive traits and how the organization is building more upon those positive constructs. Destiny. Participant seeks to define the organization's dream and typically write action plans and develop implementation strategies. So, here implementation has been made based on the positive strengths of the organization as well as on the employees of the group, that what positive a group has, based on those positive strengths of the group, the action plan is prepared and ultimately it is implemented. So, destiny is the implementation stage where the strategic plan has been implemented. And the last comes delivery. The last establishes how the design is delivered and executed. This includes how the design will be embedded within the organization and identifying the teams or the groups throughout the organization or community that can bring about the change. So, it is about the real picture, that is the delivery, that once the change has been implemented, how the organization has evolved to the next level. So, it is the benchmarking stage, that how any new change which has been built upon the positive attributes or aspect of the organization or team or groups, then how it has been embedded within the organization and the organizational members in order to see that change happening. So, this is about positive inquiry in terms of discovery, dream, design, destiny and delivery. So, AI has proven an effective change strategy in organizations such as GTE, Roadway Express and the US Navy American Express to revitalize its culture during a lean economy. So, even any organization that is suffering from any financial crisis, but still employees are there. So, employees core strength can be the positive aspect of that organization, and how with new ideas, based on this positive construct can the organization build upon. So, employees described how they already felt proud of working at American Express and were encouraged to create a change vision by describing how it could be better in the future. So, it is about adding on more good to the good that has already happened. Initially, it is that this is the lacking and this is how we have to reduce it, and then we will experience some goodness. But here in appreciative inquiry, we are focusing on the goodness, we are focusing on the strength and then building upon more upon that strength. So, this is about appreciative inquiry. So, the efforts lead to some very concrete improvements. Senior managers were able to use employees' information to better their methods of making financial forecast, improve IT investments and create new performance management tools for managers. Therefore, what is the end result of appreciative inquiry? The end result was a renewed culture focused on winning attitudes and behaviors. Thus, it is a positive approach to leadership development and organizational change, emphasizing positive idea generation. The method is to boost innovation among organizations. A company might apply appreciative inquiry to best practices and strategic planning. So, this is a major shift from what we have discussed till now. So, earlier it was problem focused, now here it is strength based intervention, which leads to about more positive role planning, more positive change agent, more positive leadership roles that adds on to the best thing that has happened in the organization. So, these are some of the OD techniques that we have discussed: sensitivity training, survey feedback, process consultation, team building, intergroup development and inquiry. We will continue to discuss about this topic in the next session. Thank you so much.